Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Adventure Paradox podcast. Kat here with a special guest. We're going to talk about horses today. I don't know what else we're going to talk about. We're definitely going to talk about horses. I have with me Mielle Fox, and Mielle and I met through the podcasting space. Her podcast is going through a bit of a transition. We may or may not talk about that. I will introduce her in just a moment. But first, Mielle, I'm so glad you're here. Where in the world are you zooming in from?
Thank you for having me, Kat. I'm zooming in from northern Vermont, about 45 minutes from the Canadian border.
Nice. How's the weather?
It's gorgeous today. We're
Oh,
just transitioning out of summer into fall. Leaves are just starting to change, and
mm,
it's just gorgeous today. Beautiful.
mm. Such a
Hmm.
special time of transition. And I feel like transition is going to be a piece of what we talk about today. But first, an introduction.
Of
Mielle Fox
course.
is a multidimensional creative human fascinated with the journey of remembering who we really are at our core. She's also an advanced numerologist, an energy strategist, horse-crazed science geek. Definitely want to talk about that today. With the gift of gab, good thing we're talking, and the capacity to hold space and shine the light of awareness to help others navigate the challenges on this journey and tap into your wild heart's energy. Okay, let's start with wild heart's energy, my friend. What is this wild heart energy? Where and when did you first feel it, and how do you think others might understand that wild heart energy?
Absolutely. So when I think wild heart energy, I think untamed, untethered, free to move in any given direction at any given moment, to pivot should something shift and change. Truly, very much how you would imagine you see a wild horse out on the plains, for example, moving forward. Then all of a sudden, there's something that creates a shift, a pivot, and the whole herd suddenly moves as one and goes in another direction. And I believe truly that at our deepest place of ourselves, at our soul, the way we show up in this human body before we layer it up with all the human junk is an untethered, wild, free spirit of pure love,
Mm,
truly.
that's
So,
beautiful.
yeah, I think it starts there. And then I think we sort of dampen it a little bit because we're having the human experience, and that's just kind of what goes along with the ride, so to speak. And we find ourselves as adults often discovering that journey back home to the essence of where we are in our heart, back to the wildness, the untetheredness, the untamedness of our true essence.
For sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's touch on, you just took us into the wild herd, this wild heart energy, and some of the dynamics of the movement and energy of the herd. Let's touch on that horse human experience and maybe a
Hmm.
little bit of your own history, like the inception of it for you and where it's taking
Yeah.
you today.
Okay. Unfortunately, we only have a little about 40 minutes because, if we had about 4 to 40 hours,
A
that'd
lifetime.
be
Yeah, it's a full-time
great,
job.
right?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
full-time job talking about horses. It truly is. So like all little girls, horse crazed, I always wanted a horse, and in my upbringing, it was not feasible for us to do such a thing. So as an adult, I sort of stumbled into horses again, if you want to call it that. I went on a 3-day retreat because I was kind of burnt out from work at the time. This is many years ago. And part of the retreat was to spend some time with horses. I came back from the 3-day retreat with the realization like, holy Hannah, this is the path to how I can improve my personal development, my growth, my transformation. There were a lot of various ahas through the whole journey, but I started with horses in my mid 30s. For anybody who is listening, I'm in my close to mid 60s, not quite, but close. Some days closer than others. And so I've been that adult learner, which is a very different path than coming to it from a kid and having that whole upbringing from a young child all the way through. So we can talk about that too if you like. But long story short, that is how I started with horses, and I discovered very quickly that there were two basic ways that you could hang out and spend your time with horses. One is the typical way when The horse is serving as a vehicle. We, the human, decide this is what we want to do today. Off we go on the lesson, off we go to the show, off we go on the ride. And it's about the mechanics. Let's just go. And then, if you're really blessed, really lucky, really fortunate, really aware, really curious, the knowledge, the true understanding that you are being gifted an opportunity to share in a window of time with another sentient being that is so rooted in ancient history, not just of how to survive and get by, but how to utilize all the energy that exists within and outside of us in the environment and within us to move through the world. And of all the animals that you could spend your time with, cats, dogs, ferrets, fish, lizards, I don't really care, whatever that is, my personal feeling is the horse is up is the pivotal place. It's the king of all potential exchanges that one could have energetically. And there are, it's not just because I love horses, of course I do, but the reason being, if you really want to understand yourself, if you really want to understand where you're really holding it together and doing great, and where could you use a little help, spend a little time with a horse because they will mirror 100 and plus percent either where you're doing really great or where you need to step it up. They're so pure in their understanding and exchange of energy that they really serve as the ultimate mirror for we as humans hanging out, doing our thing. And then there's science behind that, of course. So we can talk about
I
that.
I absolutely agree with you. And it's so interesting because a lot of what you just said, I'm editing some TEDx talk drafts, which I can't really talk about publicly yet because of all these things you sign off on that. And the challenge to quote prove this. So I'd love to go into the science or the facts because again, very similar things of like the horse will
Sure,
mirror, tell you your authentic truth, and then well, what do you mean? Show me that, right? Could
sure.
you share some of the science and maybe give us an example from your own life of an experience you've had?
Sure. So I'll kind of simplify it for listeners who may or may not have horse experience, horse exposure. But so before we bring the horse into it, let's start at the very basics, which is everything is some form of energy, exists in an energetic expression, whether it's something that breathes or something that is perceived as solid on the ground, like I don't know, whatever, the grass, the trees, the bushes, whatever the thing may be. Everything holds energy on a very deep cellular level. So if you think about it, if we are, in theory, souls within a human vessel, our human vessel is comprised of what? Cells. Those cells are over 99% energy versus particulate matter. So that's just the nutshell of energy and why is it energy. Now, the science here is we as humans are biomagnetic individuals. Biobiology, our physical being, magnetic, our energetic expression. So we are bioenergetic or biomagnetic energetic beings. And as a result, when we communicate with another bioenergetic being of some other species, let's say the horse, there is an exchange that occurs. Just think about a magnetic pull, just like the Bermuda Triangle is all about a magnetic pull from the ocean floor and up. And people say, oh my gosh, it's so mysterious. Well, it really isn't because it's really about energy magnetism is really what's going on there. And when it gets a little crazy, you get this vortex, and poof, there goes, the airplane from 1942 or whatever year it was. So it's the same thing with humans and horses. We have an expansive energetic field around us of a couple of feet, let's say, above and below. You look above you, you put your arms out. That's sort of your hula hoop of energy ballpark. A horse has about 5 to 6 times that. Which means, in theory, if you believe that to be so, your horse is aware of what's happening with you literally before you've made it out to the barn. They are aware. So if you here and you're asking for the example is you go out to your field or to your gate to gather up your fine equine friend thinking that you're going to tack up and go for a ride. And lo and behold, you get to the gate and they give you the look from about 40 feet off. And immediately they're either like, oh, sure, I'd love to come with you. That'd really be great. Or you get the see ya. And lo and behold, they're 400 feet away from you before you even realize it. It
Mm,
isn't because they've decided do they like you today or don't they like you today, or do they feel like riding today or do they not feel like riding today. It is about the energetic exchange that's occurring between yourself and them. And they feel it so much quicker than we humans feel it. Not only do they feel it quicker, but they respond to it in I mean, comparatively speaking, like lightning speed. So, for those of
mm,
us who play in the land of horses, we talk a lot about feel. We talk a lot about timing. We talk a lot about, um, being with the movement or being with the feel or being with the whatever it is. And it takes a long time to develop that skill set because our human, no matter how good we are, if we can't just plain old get out of our own way and truly move intuitively and allow our whole deep heart space, soul space to kind of do the motions or make those choices in that moment, when we put our humanness onto it, we're behind. We're too late. They're
mm,
already three thoughts ahead of us, and we're running like, oh, hang on, mentally running, like, hang on, I'm
mm,
waiting to catch up with you. Let's do this. So it's all about the energy. It's all
mm.
about the energy and the
And
intention. I will say
mm,
that.
I love this. And you're preaching to the choir, of course.
I know.
Now, there are those people outside the church, though, right? And we're not
Right,
even talking about the horse pasture church, is what we're talking about.
right, right.
And I'd love to go back to the moment, the reawakening that took place for you at this retreat, because
Hmm.
I have this theory. Since we have partnered with horses for 5, 6,000 years, that all of us have in our blood, literally in our blood, some kind of horse ancestry, but many of us have forgotten it. So it's a remembering. And for those who maybe didn't grow up with horses, there's a break in the lineage. You're not able to trace back. Gosh, how far back does this go? 100 years ago, all of us had horses. Everybody, quote, for the most part in the United States of America, was attached to some sort of equine to get around, period.
Well, to get around, to fight wars, to harvest the land, to pull logs, to
So
transport across the whole
there
country,
was,
for God's
yes,
sake, right?
there was a lot of work, but I feel like there was also a lot of, because the nature of being with horses is being, simply
Being.
being. And I feel like this is where, in the horse therapy world and equine assisted coaching and all of this stuff, like we can kind of get into this space of you're going to step into the horse and find your truth. And then the scientists are like, come on. And then we start doing the work of, no, literally, you can prove the magnetic field, right?
So yeah, let's drag the magnetic field down the land of the sympathetic parasympathetic journey for a second, if you don't mind. Because
Sure.
your question is, tell me about the science. Okay, so for the listeners out there, you have a few different nervous system setups within your body. We'll just keep it really simple. You have the one that helps you stay very much in harmony with all the needs that your organs in your body require to be in homeostasis or balance in order to function at their best available capacity. That includes your heart, your lungs, your liver, all your things.
Mhm.
Then you have the other side of your nervous system, which is designed to keep you alive. It means that when something comes up, something's chasing you, something's fearful, something's you're in danger, whatever that is, your body, without even you having to worry too much about how am I going to take care of this, instantly shifts via biochemical releases within the body, shifts from, hey, I'm chill to let me save your ass. Oh, am I allowed to swear? I'm sorry. Let me save your bum. Sorry. Edit. Um, and what occurs is you're not thinking like, oh, gee, I am scared. I think perhaps I should run. There is none of that happening. It is, oh, something's chasing me. Boom, you're gone. You're going. You're running.
Mhm.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
in order for that to occur, your entire body has on its own, without you having to help it too much, shifted biochemically to a place of life is chill and cool and I'm in balance to I need to shut down blood flow to here, here, and here in order to run faster. I need to not waste my energy processing dinner because I need to run faster and get away from whatever it may be. So that's all well and good if you're a caveman. However, here we are in, 20, whatever we're in, 2025. And what used to be keep us alive because something was going to eat us is now anxiety produced by your job, by your relationships in your home, by am I going to have enough to retire on, by what do the neighbors think, by, and fill in the blank. I mean, we all have our whatever your thing is, whatever story you love to tell yourself, whatever baggage you insist on carrying and not putting down, whatever that may be for you. It is literally constantly flooding your body with all those chemicals that keep you what I'm going to call jacked up.
Mm.
Horses don't like jacked up. You know it and I know it. Horses thrive. Their entire goal in life is to be safe and be at peace. That's what they exist for. They want to feel safe within whatever their herd is, and they want to feel when they're safe, they therefore feel at peace. So when we go out all jacked up because we've had a rough day at work or kids are screaming or you just had the fight with the spouse or whatever your gig is, and then you think like, oh, I'm going to calm down and go for a ride. And you go out there and now you get really ticked off because your best friend Mount says, I'm not coming to the gate, sorry. Why? Because you're putting out vibes that say, alert, you better run because there's something going on here that's not good. So, what do we really learn or gain from our time with our horses? On a superficial level, it's how to ground ourselves because you can't do dang thing with them if you're not grounded, truth be told. It's how to learn how to breathe because truthfully, we all know how to autonomically breathe. That's how we're built. We're built to breathe. The problem is our human gets in the way and says, no, breathe shallow. No, don't breathe. Oh, hold your breath. Oh, whatever. And we're like, I can't breathe. Of course you can breathe. You were born breathing. Breathing is the most natural thing that happens. You don't say to your horse, I want you to, you know, blow out your nose and huff and puff. No, they want to be at peace. So I
Mm.
find energetically that if you want to get geeky science about it, it's all about nervous system co-regulation, re-regulation, truthfully. And then when that piece is in place, the doorway to expansiveness, opportunity, curiosity, um, love, that heartfelt oneness, the connection that we're all seeking, it's like the doorway is open and
Mm.
they're saying, come into my world. Let me show
Mhm.
you what it feels like when you're in my world.
Totally. Okay. So now that we have this parasympathetic, sympathetic understanding, and also the context of like really what happens when we talk about co-regulating with an animal, what we mean, right? Can you come back to that retreat? What was awakened in you? Like how did you kind of see them and see yourself for the first
Yeah.
time? Because it sounds like that was the inception point from which you were like, I need horses back in my life, and then eventually had them and now have horses at home in your life.
Yep. So at the time, and we're talking, decades ago, when the whole natural horsemanship thing was, I don't want to say it was new, but it was sort of like
Emerging. Yeah.
it was the emerging thing about 30 some odd years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
at this retreat, it was in Arizona, by the way. And the entire concept of this facility that I stayed at was all about mindfulness, being in the moment, being not doing. So it was all, and back then that was like, woo,
Yeah.
now everybody talks about it, but back then it wasn't, it was a big deal. And it was basically learning how your energy and your body position could change how the horse related to you. So pretty much it was what we call round pen work. are they moving quicker? Are they moving slower? Are they turning? Are they not turning? Are they stopping? Are they, what's going on based on what are you doing? So it's not vary for people who have horses. It seems like, well, but people who either don't have horse experience or exposure, it's kind of the aha, like, oh gosh, this matters. Like how I show up matters.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the early, like just barely opening, cracking the door, just a hair, like not certainly not to where I am currently, but it was an opening. And then of course the door kind of slammed shut because I came back from that and I realized, wow, I had a lot of personal work to do. That was part one. Part two, I knew nothing about, actually knew nothing about caretaking, handling, riding. So in terms of personal safety, I needed to be educated in that way. I had
Mhm.
nothing, knew nothing.
Mm.
Um, and then as I decided to quote unquote educate myself, I was finding that the capacity to find people who are of that similar philosophy at the time was few and far between. It's far more prevalent now, but back then it wasn't. And living on the East Coast, I can tell you, it absolutely was not available. East Coast equestrians are a whole different breed than folks who live out west. It's a very different relationship that tends to happen here on the East Coast, and I think it's a lot of it is by virtue of how we live, what our lifestyle is, how our world works compared to, let's say, folks that maybe ranch out west or have other experiences. It's just very different. So suffice to say, basically, my early horse days were pretty much centered riding lessons, learning how to be around a horse, walk, handle them, what to look for, all those things. And I got to a place where I really felt very disillusioned because I realized all of my lessons were put your leg here, put your hand here. Well, the horse isn't going to do this if you don't do that. And I thought, well, how bizarre. That's like me saying to you, Cat, come with me across the room. Oh, but wait a second, I need to poke you in your fourth rib, and then I need to kind of tug on your left arm, and then I need to, like, pop you on the head with something in order for you to understand how to cross the room, as opposed to I look at you and I say, my friend, would you like to come with me across this room and we can go have a cappuccino together? And you say, oh, well, yes, I would. How great. So it was that difference from make them do it by pushing a pile of buttons to really understanding and learning how does my human brain and my divine heart and soul learn to hold space with these horses and their horse brain and yet their divine heart and soul.
Mm.
So it's been a really long, 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 long journey, and there have been some kind of bumps in the road. But what I've learned over the decades has, I'm going to say, I think it served my horses, but truthfully, I think it served me more so actually than them. Um, because if I can't show up for them, I'm clearly not showing up for me. It's really that
Mm.
simple.
Mm. Wow. This is making me think you said, bumps in the road, and one of my favorite expressions is hitches in the giddy up.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about this, real horses. They really require us to embrace all that comes along with being a real being. And it's not all pretty. There are a lot of bumps in the road. There is illness, there is injury, there is the scary white bag blowing across the road, you know. And at some point there's a birth, and at some point, there's a death. And there's the
Mm-hmm.
marathon of the middle that we call life. And I think what's so interesting when we took horses out of the equation of our daily lives and daily connection and the grounding and the many, many requirements of just being with them and staying okay yourself and, working together. And now we have replaced that with a vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even talk to each other in real space anymore necessarily. We can do it like this, you know? It's just
Right.
interesting. I was thinking today, Miel, about like what's it going to look like 100 years from now? And I was thinking about some of the dirtier tasks. You know how there's like a Roomba to vacuum? I'm sure there's going to be some sort of manure Moomba, you know, it'll clean
Right.
stalls, right? Because
Right.
we have electric waterers. Like just the number of things that we are then more and more hands off, not just with horses, but with nature, like with that magnetic, real
Yes.
cellular
Yes.
and just there's a part of me that is very scared for our culture and a little bit horrified by it, and there's a part of me that's so grateful because here we are, we can connect. You're in Vermont today, I'm in Wisconsin, like
Yes.
amazing.
It's so true. So I think everything has, just like, okay, a little bit off tangent, but I'm going to say it. Everything is some kind of a duality. Everything in our lives is some kind of a duality. We could go down the road of what do you call it? It doesn't matter. Just call it a duality. For every up, there's a down. For every good, there's a bad. For every low, there's a high. Whatever. So, same thing with technology. It's great that you can have an automatic waterer. That's kind of nice. However, there are pieces of the whole day to day interaction that occurs when you caretake for something else that has a heart and a brain
Yeah.
that you cannot replace with technology. You cannot replace by becoming less present. To me, I think driving a car is the ultimate in disconnection. You turn the key. Now the car can drive itself if you decide that that works in your world. I got to tell you, that doesn't work in my world. But,
Mhm.
for some places it does. Great. You literally have disconnected from every form and source of contact, communication, collaboration. It just doesn't exist. It's all taken care of by technology.
Mhm.
If you're fortunate enough, and I'm very blessed, my horses live at my home, thank goodness, because even the folks who need to board their horse, place it with someone else who does the caretaking, and they go and do their thing, I will 150% tell you that in my mind and in my heart, the level and depth of the connection is different. I'm not saying it isn't possible if you board your horse. I'm not suggesting that it isn't. It is possible. But when you are there 24/7, the good, the bad, you're walking them in the 3 o'clock in the morning and 15 below
Mhm.
because you have
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
or, you're there taking care of them because they've, stepped in something and now they've dinged up their legs or whatever the thing is, and you have to do the caretaking. First of all, it certainly is a test of uh, how how aligned are you? Where is their trust? How connected are you? Um, so that's the wake up call when things kind of go south. But it's also it's it's a little bit like what happens if you're not there for your children and you hand your kids off completely, like ship them off to whatever boarding school, or maybe instead of having, like, I don't know, maybe you got a nanny who lives with you and they take care of some of the nitty gritty, but you still spend a lot of time with your kids, versus there are families where mom and dad don't see the kids. Okay, I have to say the bond is going to be a little different. It
It's
just
exactly,
is.
yeah, it's
It
exactly what I
just
was thinking
is.
about is like
Yeah.
folks, and I went through this when I had babies, where I was like, wow, I am paying people to take care of my children so I can go out and be with my horses. But now they're starting to say mom, and they're saying it to me and this person helping. So this is a moment where I get to choose. And as much as I
Mhm.
love my four-legged babies, I'm going to delegate my horse chores to be with my human children. And it's
Absolutely
a
understandable. Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
think though for so many, they don't see the connection to the nitty-gritty day to day because it's about you remember the five love languages thing, right? For
Mhm.
animals,
Mhm.
it's all quality time. You know what I mean? It's all quality
Right?
time, right? So like
Yeah.
yes, you can show up once a week and have like a high quality lesson, but the reality is their day-to-day quality of life is going to come from those who are showing up touching them, connecting with them, or not, right? Or
Or
it's just the
not.
wildness of being out to pasture, right? And then when you show up once a week, there might not be much there because there's a whole lot of other stuff that they're connecting to besides you, right?
I'm really glad that you're saying this because this is, I think, also a human trait that is a very telling trait, extremely telling. Why do humans get horses? Because we want to love on them and we want them to love us. But here's the deal. Given their druthers, you're not number one. You've got to really work hard to take on the I don't want to say the priority, but to really be the shining light in their day that they're going to leave their herd willingly, repeatedly, consistently to come hang out with you.
Mm.
Because truth be told, you go out there unless you really work with them a lot, you're out there 1 or 2 hours maybe of your day. The other 20 hours, they're hopefully out with their herd. That's their world. That's how they're put together. That's what they're made for. And
Hmm.
then you will hear humans say, well, Fluffy doesn't love me. It's not that Fluffy doesn't love you. It's that you're just a part of Fluffy's world. Fluffy may be your entire world for you as a human, but truth be told, you're just a part of Fluffy's world.
For sure.
And yes, they may want you over the next person. Don't get me wrong. That happens for sure. They will bond very specifically.
Mm,
But in their world, we are a piece of their world where humans very often feel like, oh, this animal is my world. So
mm,
it's a little different.
hmm,
And
hmm.
that to me is our wake up call to, are you finding your personal peace, joy, confidence, all the things, are you seeking it from within, or are you still externalizing it with things like, oh, my horse doesn't love me? Okay, look, if you're still leaning on my horse doesn't love me is validating, are you a good enough human being? There's your lesson right there. There's your mirror. It means you need to sit your bum down and have a talk with yourself and figure it out.
Yeah, this is making me think of, I don't know if you listened to my Speak Truth to Live summit. It came out earlier this year, but one of our guests, Aina Spirit Walker, shared with me, and then I went on to look this article up, that they've done studies to prove that the vibration of authenticity is 400 times greater than the vibration of love. And when I hear authenticity, I like to use a four-letter word to replace that, which is real. Is it real?
Yes,
Is it not real? Are you real? Because if you, and this is coming back to the love thing. Oh, I love my baby. My baby doesn't love me. They called nanny mommy, whatever it is. It's not that they
right.
don't, it's authentically this is who they're with, this is how they
Yes.
identify with, as their caretaker. So it's just very, very interesting to me. We could talk all day, but
I know, right? We
I
could talk
I
all day.
I want to bring it back. First of all, will you tell us what your t-shirt says? What's it say?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I bought it to support some cause. It says we are all just walking each other home, which
Ah,
is
amen.
really, yeah, I didn't create the phrase, but I think it's an accurate phrase. So
Ram
sometimes
Dass.
we,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
Ram
sometimes
Dass.
we walk it solo, sometimes we walk it with one another.
Mm,
Sometimes someone's there for a long time and sometimes they're not, and that includes your animals, which
yeah,
goes around about you're there and then they're not. There's a reason for that. And yeah, yeah, I think the whole gig of why are we here in Earth School is because we're here to remember the journey of how to get back home to the essence, to the heart of who we really are.
yeah, yeah.
Like
Amen,
that's the
girl.
whole deal,
Mic
However you
drop.
do it. Yeah.
And might I add that for me, home is where the horses are.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. It
Oh,
is. It so
well,
is.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, Miel.
My pleasure.
We'll put all this info in the show notes, your website,
Sure.
miellefox.com. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Oh, I just think if you have ever had that little yearning in your heart, like, oh, I just want to see what it's like to be with a horse, it is so available to be in a safe environment for people who are not familiar And it is so worth the experience because it opens so much up within you.
Yeah, for sure. Trust
So
that
much.
desire.
So
Follow the
much.
lead. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And your life
Yeah.
will be exponentially, oh, just, I want to say so much bigger, but it's really so much deeper, I feel
It's
like.
deeper. It's
Mhm.
deeper. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well, until next time, trot on.
Absolutely. Tread on. Carry on. Thank you for
Okay.
your time.
Oh, so fun. And thank you, listeners. We will be back next time. Oh, speaking of, you were talking about duality. I did just drop The Nature of Duality, a mini-sode earlier this week. So on point. I
Perfect.
think Mielle knew that, but like we're resonating. All right. Thanks, everybody. Go check it out if you need a shorty, and we'll see you next time.